Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Therefore, no current or prospective client should assume that the future performance of any specific investment strategy, including the investments and/or investment strategies recommended and/or purchased by advisor, or product made reference to directly or indirectly, will be profitable. Different types of investment involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment will either be suitable or profitable for a client's investment portfolio. No client or prospective client should assume that any information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor or any other investment professional.
Welcome to the Bullington Capital Report, hosted by Bill Bullington. For the next hour, you'll receive information on current market conditions and trends that could affect your financial future. If you have a question, you can participate in today's program by calling 216-901-0945. That's 216-901-0WHK. You can also reach Bill by going to his website, bullingtoncapital.com. And now, here's Bill Bullington.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Good to be here. I'm actually broadcasting my place in Powell, Ohio. But you're welcome to call in and ask any questions you have in today's show. It's 216-901-0945, 216-901-0945. Been kind of quiet here a little bit over the past few days anyway, which is always good. It's actually the market's up a little bit. Let me see, about a little over 2%. Now, which is not bad, and I can tell you that I do a thing, and once we're able to do seminars again, I'll show you how to do what I'm doing. It's a hobby, and probably, most hobbies cost you money. This one makes you money, or can make you money. I shouldn't say it makes money. It can make you money, and it's a long-term trading strategy I've used for years. I used to do it for clients, but what happened was my client base got too big, and I couldn't do it for everybody, and nobody had the technology to make this available to the masses. So I am going to start teaching it again because it really doesn't require a lot of time once you have it set up and you know what you're looking for and you know what you're doing. Bottom line is a trend-following strategy where you cut your losses, ride your winners, use good money management. Those are the three pinnacles of that strategy. The using good money management is the most important, by the way. That's by far the most important. So anyway, something to look forward to. I like the direction of financial markets. I'm just amazed at how resilient they've been over the past couple of years. I would have expected declines that were actually larger than the declines that we've seen. 2022 was not a good year. If you looked at from peak to trough, the range was a little over like 28% from the top to the bottom. That's a major decline. Normally, that's only supposed to happen once every 3 or 4 years or so, but it's been a little bit more frequently lately, for the last couple decades, actually. Now I'm definitely revealing my age, but that's okay. And did I mention we're going to have Bob Klingman coming back on? Bob is an enrolled agent, and he's going to be coming on right around 11:20 to answer any tax questions you might have. He's a really good guy, speaks plain English, and you have questions for him, he'll be glad to try to answer those. And we are going to be talking about the Secure Act, some of the things that have happened. It's pretty substantial. I mean, I am amazed that they are doing as much as they are as quickly as they are. So we're just going to hit the highlights there. This could have a big impact on an awful lot of people. I talk to people all the time that, you know what, actually it's good news. It's going to help. It's really going to help. So Bob Cousin will talk about that. And that, again, he'll be calling in around 11:20. If you want to put that on your clock really quickly, because you won't want to miss that kind of stuff. And if you do miss it, just go to my website or go to iTunes, type in Bullington Capital Report, any show that we ever do, we post there, so you can go back and hear it again. Personally, I would just go to my website at Bullington Capital, click on the contact us, and write the question out and send it. That's the fastest, easiest way to get a response. And I will say this, that ever since the pandemic, I don't know about you, but technology has not been working as well as it used to. We spend probably 2 to 3 hours a day waiting for the servers to come back online. And these are big companies we're dealing with. I mean, really big companies. And it is mind-boggling how much trouble they've had over the past 2 to 3 years. And I don't know what's actually causing it. It does seem to have improved a little bit in the last 3 months or so. But spending 2 to 3 hours a day waiting when normally we could get this stuff done in 5 or 10 minutes, that is that's rough. So when you're trying to log on the website and you think it's something that you're doing, probably not you. Probably the website. They're having issues all over the world. But it still beats the old methods, having to do everything with paper and making copies and keeping file cabinets at home and all that other good stuff. When you have a custodian, our custodians keep the track record. They keep the records forever. So if you lose a 1099, don't worry about it. We can always get a copy of one. If you've lost a year-end statement, no problem. You can pull those up, print them out, send them right. And we normally will send those through the mail, mainly because a lot of my clients are older, and opening stuff up through email can be very difficult, especially when we have to set up a secure mode of transferring over the internet, because then you have to set up an account and all this other kind of stuff. So we will typically just print it out, and we'll put it in a first class and get it to you as quickly as possible. So if you're out there listening, you're a client, you're worried. By the way, many of the firms have not sent the 1099s out yet. So that's coming here within the next week or so, I think. But don't hold my feet to the fire on that one. 1099s, I think it was, 2 or 3 years ago. They didn't come out until about a week before your taxes were due. Yeah, and everybody thought it was us. And I got news for you. We don't have anything to do with that. In fact, the custodians that have your assets, we use 3 of the world's largest. One is the world's largest, and I like them all. They are required to keep your records for you for a certain amount of time. And most of them are doing it online now. You can go and download the documents that you need, print them out. Their logon procedures are generally pretty safe. They use the highest level of encryption. And anyway, make a long story short, you can get copies of your documents if you want to. And we help an awful lot of people, a lot of our clients, by going in and helping them do that. And again, if they're actually a client, we have the ability to print off these statements or the 1099s and just mail it, regular snail mail. So I like that. Good to have options. And I was just thinking, Bob's going to be coming in. He's going to be talking about the Secure Act 2022. There are a lot of things. This is actually the Secure Act 2.0. There are a lot of things that they've added here that there's going to be a lot of benefit, but you're going to have to understand it, and you're going to need to talk with somebody more than likely for some of these things that they're doing, like rolling over a 529 plan. Remember the 529 plans? You could put them in there. You can name your kids or grandkids as beneficiaries, help pay for their college. As long as you used it for school expenses, you didn't have to pay tax on the money when you took it out, and it could grow whatever it's going to grow to. Well, if they got out of school and then you still have money left, or maybe they decided not to go to school, or they went to a trade school instead of college, and you had already you have money left over, you can actually convert those into Roth IRAs now. And I'm going to let Bob talk about that in detail. Realistically, you have to have a tax preparer's identification number now to give out tax advice. So I have a Series 65 securities license. I'm a registered investment advisor. It's not the same thing. And a lot of people don't understand that. I get it. I didn't either until I actually got into the industry. But we can't give tax advice out. That's why I have Bob on. And Bob can't give investment advice out because he doesn't have securities licenses. So it works out pretty good that way. But anyway, they've really done made a lot of changes, and a lot of them I think are really good. I'm amazed. So, and he'll be coming on in about probably 7 or 8 minutes. And at the last portion of today's show, I'm actually going to talk about individual stocks. I know I used to talk a lot about it, and some people keep requesting that I talk about it, and I will. I'm going to go back. I'll show you what I do, or I'll talk about what I do. And I'm going to make a couple of purchases next week. So actually, I'll probably make them around 10:30 Monday morning so that I don't get accused of front running. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But if you do, you'll know that I'm not doing it. And so I have to wait until, if I make a recommendation or mention a stock, I typically have to wait about an hour after the market opens to make a purchase. So does that put me at a disadvantage? Heck yeah, it does. But that's okay. There are that many people listening to it that it should have that big of an impact. But so anyway, we will talk a little bit about individual stocks. And once you get this down, this process that I go through, once you get it down, then you can do it in your sleep. And it's just that simple. And it's very difficult psychologically, intellectually, not so much. There's not a whole lot of advanced math involved. There's a little bit, but it's very little. And actually, average 7th grader could do it. So it's the psychological part that is really hard. And that's what's hard about investing. That's what's hard about aging. I mean, I spent a few days. My mother fell and broke her hip. How many times have you heard of people that are older doing that? I mean, constant. So, and she's in the hospital now, and I had to drop everything and run out. My brother and I were there, and fortunately, he's taking really good care of her, doing all the paperwork. And but it's tough. So, a lot of your planning that you need to get in place that was coming right back up. I'm so glad that we were prepared. We are prepared, and we can handle whatever comes along. I'm actually back at work and keeping in touch. We get the cell phones and texting, and works out pretty well. But we literally had a plan for this that was already in place, and interesting because my mom was, pretty healthy. I mean, extremely healthy. Didn't look her age, and just was out on the deck, and it was raining. The deck was really wet. She slipped and fell, and now we're putting all those plans to the test, and so far so good. Knock on wood. But and it's not really all that difficult. It's as difficult as you want to make it. There are certain decisions that you have to make when you're doing this type of planning. And in future weeks, we'll talk a little bit more about that, too. I'm actually going to try to make that a portion of each and every show, just preparing for retirement. And I've always been really fond of saying you're never too young to start preparing for retirement. A lot of kids get right out of college. They don't start thinking about this stuff until they're in their 30s, and they have no idea how much that 10-year time period is going to cost them in the long run. And those that actually study and find out how much that 10-year time period cost them are typically very regretful. And it's really not that difficult, especially today. The Secure Act, it's pretty wild. So if you're working for a larger company that has a 401k plan, they automatically have to enroll you now. I mean, I was looking at one of the sections of the law, and I think it said for people that have more than 10 employees. I was like, what? That used to be around 50 employees, and we should ask Bob about that too. But anyway, they're reaching down into smaller businesses, making it so that if you're going to be employing people, you have to sign them up in their 401k plan. There's some big benefits to doing that. Now they've again, I think I'm going to wait and let Bob explain a lot of this stuff because it is tax information. But I just thought it was really interesting that they were taking such huge steps towards trying to help people get involved in saving for their own retirement. And it's about time, actually. I mean, they should. They should have been around a long time ago. The amount of money that it takes to be able to replace your income when you get to retirement age is huge. I mean, it's astronomical. Think about this for a second. So somebody comes out of college, gets a job making $50,000 because they got a good degree, got a pretty decent first job. Yeah, I'm just talking about a bachelor's degree. Maybe, in economics. That's because that's what I had. But you get out, you go to work for a bank. Maybe you make $50,000. But so if you take the let's say you make $40,000, that's your first job. $40,000. You're a trainee, and you start thinking about how much it takes, how much investment money you would have to produce $40,000 in today's dollars using 4%. Well, 40,000 is 4% of $1 million. So it would take $1 million. In other words, it would take $1 million earning 4% to be able to pay your $40,000 a year salary, and that's a shocker. Now, of course, if you have Social Security, it's probably going to cut that number by 30 or 40%. But that's still $500,000-$600,000 you have to come up with on your own, and those are in today's dollar. But so I just got a warning that I got about 30 seconds before commercials start playing. So I'm going to take this instance to say this is Bill Bullington right here on 1420. If you have any questions, call us, 216-901-0945. We've got Bob Klingman, an enrolled agent, about to come on and give us some tax advice for this coming year. And if you have any questions that you can't stop and call in right now, then you can reach me on my office line.
Who breaks the power of sin and darkness?
And we're back. Hey, I've got Bob Klingman on the phone. Bob is an enrolled agent. Bob, are you there?
I am here.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming back on this week. And it was pretty popular last week. We had a lot of questions that popped up in email and whatnot. So we should probably start off by letting people know what is the easiest way to get a hold of you.
Probably my office number, which is 440-461-5067.
Okay. Let's do that one more time just for those people that may not have caught it the first time.
440-461-5067.
Well, I really appreciate that. And if you didn't get a chance to write that down, you can always email me, bill@bullingtoncapital.com, and I'll get you information over. And, hey, I was looking at that act. That is crazy. The amount of changes. I feel so bad for you guys because it is rough just to keep up with it.
I just looked at, the government comes up with all these names and, what secure stands for. And it was actually under Donald Trump. He was the first one. And it's Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enactment Act. I said, boy, they got an acronym for everything.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are really talented with words.
I swear they are. They really are.
Because a lot of attorneys...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I said there really is a lot in what they just put on, and it's one of the acts that really received both under Trump and under Biden bipartisan agreement. It really did. So I mean, that's kind of good to see in a way.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, it's a great thing because I've been around this industry for an incredibly long time, and if you leave something up to the employee, the chances of it getting done are pretty remote. I mean, one of the features in the plan, the auto enrollment in the 401k plans, they used to leave it up to the employer and had said, okay, hey, ask the employees, you want to be in this? If you don't, fine. If not, all right. Now it's requiring if the employer has a 401k plan, they automatically have to put the employee into the 401k unless the employee opts out. So now it's no longer up to the employee to opt in. It's up for them to opt out. They're automatically in. Which is an awesome thing.
It is.
And
it is.
Yep. And if you're a smaller employer and you're worried about the cost, one of the nice things I saw was employers with up to 50 employees, you can get a tax credit of 100% of the plan startup cost up to $5,000.
Yes.
Now, that's about. I know where they got the number for 5,000. That's about average for a plan with 50 employees, just to start up.
Yeah.
So, but getting a credit, that's pretty good.
A credit is better than a deduction, as people know. Deduction is just a reduction of your taxable income, or a credit is a dollar for dollar reduction of your income tax, which is really big. It really is.
Yep, it is. And I remember these old oil and gas partnerships. I mean, those were crazy, the amount that the tax credits they got for that.
Oh, yes.
And I cried a little tear when the last one went away. Just kidding. But anyway, there's also a new tax credit is available to offset a percentage of the employer contributions made for the first 5 years. That's pretty cool.
Yes, yes, it is. I like that one too. Like I said, they have really, and they keep changing these ones as they go on, and I expect to see more. If people don't understand what the Secure Act, it means just what it is they're trying to get people into these plans, and they're trying to force employers to take more an active role in getting the people into them and providing, because it's wonderful if businesses do well, but if the employees out there, and whether they want to or know it or not, are not into these plans and they retire, you just can't live on Social Security. It's not gonna. It's not gonna happen. And people are not. It's upon you to take it upon yourself to plan for your retirement, but people don't. They don't. Let's put it that way. You see it. I know it. I see it coming across here, and it's scary. It's very scary. It's a very scary.
And the thing is, this I think it's a really good act. I mean, if you really can't afford to save any money at all, then you just tell your employer, you fill out the paperwork, and you opt out of it. But you're going to have to take that step to do that.
To do it.
And I'm telling you, anybody could live on 10% less of what they're earning. Well, I shouldn't say anybody, but the vast majority of people can do it. It's just a discipline thing. And that's what I like about these plans. It enforces a discipline. It's a discipline that you just said that most people that we see have already been ingrained in their bringing up that this is how we live. We don't live above our means. There's always going to be people that do. But people I see, most of them live within their means, and it's a way of, okay, once I retire, this is what I have. That's what my means are. And you just said you can live with 10% less once you retire. Yes. And by the way, it's not even 10% because you're not paying tax on it.
That's right. You're not paying state tax on a lot of things. You're not paying your Social Security tax on things. So, I mean, there is some state tax on retirement funds and for some other things. I shouldn't say that, but there's no state tax on Social Security.
Right.
Yeah.
And the money that you put into the 401k plan is avoiding the biggest tax. That's the federal income tax. And so if you put $100 in there, there's a pretty good chance it's probably only going to cost you about $80 at the end of the year. So where on earth and
you get that kind of return.
Yeah. And that's like the biggest coupon that's ever existed.
And as this CARE Act did, as you know, the RMD, the requirement, now it's to 73, then eventually it's going to go to 75. There's a 74 in there too. But it's going to stay in there longer. So they keep saying, yeah, okay, I don't know when it's going to stop, but you don't have to take the money out until then if you don't want to. So it can stay in there. You don't have to take it out until these certain ages.
Right. You know what? I can't remember the exact age that you had to be to collect from Social Security when it was first enacted back in the 1930s, late 30s. But it was what was really funny was they picked the average life expectancy. That's when you had to make it past the average life expectancy to collect any money. And I was thinking how clever actually was that of the government. Hey, we're going to give everybody of old age, we're going to give you some money because we know you're broke or it's hard to save money. And so they picked the actual average life expectancy. What they didn't count on was that life expectancy is actually up about 25% from where it was.
Well, it is being taken in. I mean, if you see, now that it's a graduated step up to 67 years old, pretty much for baby boomers. I think it goes up to age 60, I think it is. And then after that, 67. At what point, and you're probably in the back of your mind thinking, are they going to bump that up to 70? You know what I mean?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
By the time I get there, that's my luck too. By the way,
I think
I always invest.
Yeah, you'll be fine. People now and there, I think if you're in your 30s, 40s, even I think you might be pushing that it's going to be 70, 50. I think you're on the cusp right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've been doing this for such a long time. And I'm going to a Social Security refresher course here in a couple weeks. And it's just been such a long time period that I've been doing this. And they're just some basic things. Everything is in your head, by the way. Most people can do whatever they need to do if they just think about it a little bit. And the solutions are typically fairly simple. And I'm always amazed by that. And even when I do it myself, I make things just overly complicated. You young people out there, don't worry about it. You should be saving somewhere between 10 and 15% of your pre-tax income if you're below the age of 40. No sweat. And once you get used to it, you don't even notice it anymore.
No.
You will actually acclimate towards that lifestyle.
It is, but like you said, it's a discipline. It really is a discipline in anything. But the problem is as you know, I mean, you're 40 years old. You're not thinking. You may be thinking 65. Well, that's 25 years down the road. It comes up fast.
Right.
It comes up fast.
It does. Yep.
It comes up in a hurry. And when it gets here, it's sad.
Sure.
It's just you need to be prepared.
Right. And to help them out, the last few years have been tough up until, probably 12 months ago, maybe 18 months ago, because interest rates were so low. It was incredibly difficult to get a safer product like a bond fund or treasuries or CDs or fixed annuities to get any kind of return was really difficult. And now you've got because the rates have come up quite a bit. Well, you know what? I just have to. We got to take a caller here. His name is John, and he's been on hold. I didn't switch back to that screen. I couldn't see it, but yeah. So, hey, John, do you have a question for us?
Yes, no rush. We have been talking about the movies at the door for years. Social Security is going to be Chapter 11, Chapter 9, all kinds of things. The board and the elephant is in the room. All that they have to do is leave the politics and raise the limit. Why should 139 or 159 or whatever limit for Social Security?
Right.
I know to some degree, but people at the higher income, they can afford to pay that 7.5 I'm more concerned about the self-employed people more than the. Look at the other people with the higher income, with the passive income, makes enough money to, even if they pay with the 7.5% matching, right?
Right.
I don't know why. They want to look at the other way. I don't care which party it is. If they really believe in the long-term health of Social Security, there's plenty of answers. You don't need a PhD from MIT.
My brother-in-law.
I'll tell you something. Anyway, keep up the good work. You have been fine. You don't need a refresher course at age 60. You got a good brain. I know that.
Yeah, well, my brother-in-law used to trade on the stock floor, and he is above me way with finances, and he explained the whole thing to me. But I couldn't even begin to tell you. But the bottom line with Social Security is, and he told me, he says, Bob, he says, from the beginning, if they would have just invested in government bonds, everybody would be retiring with $70,000 with Social Security right now. But he said the way it runs now, he says they use as a scare tactic all the time that Social Security is going to run out. He says it's not going to run out.
I remember the ad with the wheelchair going over the cliff.
Yeah, it is a scare tactic. I see it all the time that people come, oh, I hear this, that they're going to do this. And I says, one, did they do it? And have they ever done it?
If you want to see
savings and capitalism in high school, that's where the seed should be planted. We don't do that for years, and Bill knows I've talked to him about it for years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to see
thank you.
Thank you. If you want to see a real insurrection, just mess around with that Social Security. I dare you.
Yeah. Well, it's always one thing. Even when McCarthy just got in, one of the things they talked about was the Medicare and Social Security, and he even said, he says that's the last thing that will ever be, cut or anything like that will be Social Security. Because like you just said, yeah.
That's because he reads. I forgot who it was. I was one of the speakers of the House. He was talking about that. He was talking to a bunch of older people, and he was talking about necessary cuts and entitlement programs. And let me tell you something. They are entitled to that because they paid into it.
That's
we all paid into it. And I will never live I'll never live long enough to get the money back that I put into it.
No, but the part of the problem is as federal government employees, they don't pay into it. So I don't, it's easy to cut something that's not going to affect you.
Right.
That's part of the thing.
Yeah, I forget it. Anyway, it cracked me up. And the quickest way to lose an election, go ahead and make that cut. Watch what happens. The vast majority of people 65 and older still vote. And it's the fastest growing segment of the population.
Oh, yes, it is.
That would not make good sense for someone. But and I think every time, they start to mention something like that, they bring it up, and then somebody comes behind the scenes and says, hey, you better calm that down.
That's right.
They give it up. But so I don't think it's going to happen. But and even if they did, the people are there. Well, actually, I take that back. The average life expectancy has actually shrunk for the first time in decades. I'm not even sure when the last time, or even if it has ever shrunk before, but it's not a lot. And average life expectancy of a 65-year-old is about 20 years. That's the average. And of course, you got some people that live to their hundreds. Look at Warren Buffett. He's in his 90s. And I think Charlie Munger, his partner, I think he just turned 100. But here we have about 30 seconds left before we have a quick commercial break. You're listening to Bill Bullington and Bob Klingman. Bob's the owner of Dispatch Tax Services. If you'd like his contact information, just email me. Or, Bob, you can give your number out real quick right before we go to the commercial break.
Yeah, it's 440-461-5067.
All right. Thanks, and we'll be back after these commercial messages.
I wish I knew when this mountain in my way is gonna move. Hope it's okay to tell the truth.
Oh, welcome back. This is Bill Bullington. I'm here with Bob Klingman this morning. We're talking about some new tax law changes, and Bob is the owner of Dispatch Tax Services. And if you'd like to get a hold of him, feel free to. You can go to my website or call me or call Bob, and I'll have you yell that number out again real quick.
Yes, it's 440-461-5067.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate you coming on the show and shedding some light on this. This has been one of them. I can't remember a year. No, I can. It's been a long time since I've seen as many changes to the Internal Revenue Code as I've seen over the past 12 months with all these programs. They have really changed them a lot. So,
yes, and let's touch a little bit on what, because, as with the pandemic, they had a lot of credits and things. So there are some things that have changed. They give with one hand, take away with another. There's not going to be any more stimulus checks. The earned income tax credit, which a lot of people took, if you were over 65, you couldn't take it. During the pandemic, they allowed people over 65. It was a big thing I had, because I had people who had grandkids with them, and they took it. And now this year, that's gone. The raised child tax credit, which was $3,600 and up during the pandemic, has now reverted back to the $2,000. So, those are two big ones they took away. But the big thing they brought back was the energy credit. So they brought that back, but they have it on a limited. You can only take up to $500 total. But, your geothermal and your solar and your wind things, if you have those in your house, those are refundable credits. Carry forward credits of up to 30%. So that's a lot of money.
Good. Yeah, that is a lot of money. Yeah.
A lot of
awesome.
For individual people. Yeah, geothermal is a big thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, great. That's pretty awesome. So again, this is Bob Klingman. He's an enrolled agent. You can get a hold of Bob anytime you'd like to. Call him or call my office, and I'll put you in touch with him. And one of the things I did want to talk about before I got out of here, Bob, was as interest rates have started to creep up, there's products I haven't done for an extremely long time period. And these are annuities that act a lot like IRAs, where the periods are shorter. Normally an annuity is an extremely long-term contract. The vast majority of them are 10 years, 10-year commitment. These are coming down to 5 years, and the income on them is 5.3 right now, which is a lot, especially when you consider that it's tax deferred. At the end of that 5-year period, you could roll it over and keep it tax deferred. Who knows what interest rate's going to be in 5 years from now? But that's a really good rate. That's really strong, and that comes from an A+ rated insurance carrier, and I use quite a few of them now. Now that interest rates have come back around, I started looking back into this, and they always aim for a little bit higher than whatever your CD, the higher CD rates are, mainly to attract business. And when you throw the tax deferral on there, that can be very meaningful for an awful lot of people, especially those people who are paying taxes on their Social Security.
Right. The big thing about those, and I think you just said it, was they're down to 5 years instead of 9. And what people, and with annuities, if people want to get out of them, you pay a hefty declining penalty based on how many years are left on that annuity. Right. At 5 years, that's not a lot, really, at this point now. 5 years goes in a hurry.
Yes, it
5
does.
years goes in a hurry. So if you get locked into one or something like that doesn't work for you 2 or 3 years down the road, you're not going to take as big a hit as you would with, like you said. Like you said, most I saw were 10, 11 years, 12. They go out more than that, but
Yeah, and a lot of them have free withdrawals. Like you don't have to take the whole. You can take a portion of it out without having to pay a penalty on it.
Yeah, a lot of
average. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking that you're just going to say it. I've seen about, $50,000 a year up to, not 50,000. It was, some of them I think allow you up to, 50,000 or how much is it?
It really depends on the contract. Most of them are a percentage, and the most popular one's 10%.
Okay,
if you had
allows
so you can
10% of your plan up to a certain amount, depending on the plan. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like they don't have any liquidity. They do have some liquidity. And the worst thing in the world happened that you had to pay a penalty. You know how much the stock market fluctuates in a month?
Yeah, I know.
So I always look at that. I'm like, you're not looking at this like it taking everything into account. The stock market is incredibly volatile, and you could end up getting 30, 40, 50% less.
And I had
50% stock.
I'll give you an idea about one of these annuities. This was years ago, and I looked at one. A friend of mine, her mother had passed, and I don't know who talked her into it, but she had like $900,000, and she put it in.
Wow.
They had her put it into this annuity, like most of it, like $700,000. And she comes to me and she says, I said, I'm not a financial person. I said, but who got you into this? She says, why? I says, you have $700,000. If you want to get out of that now completely, there's like, what, an 8% penalty? And you're declining? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Yeah.
$6,000 you're taking a hit on for making that decision.
Yep. Yeah.
I said, but I can't tell you what to do. I says, that's not me. I said, you have to talk to, like somebody like you.
Yep.
Say, I can't tell you what to do. I said, you've already done it.
Sometimes you do have options within the contracts, but you got to look at it. The vast majority, especially in the old days, 10% was a pretty standard number. So you could take 10% of it out each year and without taking a penalty on it. So it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's better than nothing. And if you were just taking it out, to supplement your income, that might be okay. You're probably taking it out back in those days. I take it back. When I first started in the industry, the annual interest rate on annuities were right around 10%, if you can believe that. Yeah, so you were allowed then to take out the income, and that would make that requirement of the 10%. And a lot of people just decided to do that. I'll just say, just give me the income. That's okay, because it was 2 or 3% higher than they were offered in government bonds or CDs, and it was principal was guaranteed by the insurance company. You got to keep that in mind too. It's only as strong as the insurance company, but the principal was guaranteed by them, and those payments, if you didn't need it, you didn't have to take it, and you wouldn't have to report the income. So that was kind of a big deal.
And when you talk about annuities, I think people should, pensions are an annuity. That's what they are.
Yep.
All pensions are an annuity fund. So if you're getting a pension,
exactly,
you have an annuity. Just as you just said, the options are different on each one.
Yeah, and that's where it really, I'm just amazed at the level of complexity that they've added to a lot of these products. And I know why they've done it. A lot of cases, it has made some improvements, and a lot of them, all it's done is muddy the water. And so a lot of people don't really understand what they even have. And I try to keep it as simple as possible. You want to look at the guarantees that you're going to get. That's why you're buying an annuity or investing in an annuity. It's for the guaranteed income or interest that you're going to get, and the fact that it's tax deferred. But you don't want to let the tax dog wag or tax tail wag the dog, rather.
Right.
You got to consider all that stuff. When
Which is
might
I like working with you, and because again, people will come to me and I'll ask them, from a tax side, I say, okay, look, first things first, you go talk to who's your person who has this, find out exactly and tell me if you take this, what are the, how much is it that you can take out, what's the penalty? Then I will work on my side and say, okay, you take this out, here's the tax ramifications. So there's a different side, like you said, on each side. There's a tax ramification from it that's, when you do it. As anything.
Sure.
Your question should, what am I going to be paying in taxes? On the other side, you need to talk to your financial person. What does this do for me down the road? So they work hand in hand. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm just so glad to see that interest rates are back up to where they're attractive again. Because for a long time they weren't, and it's only been within the last, I don't know, 3 years where they've gotten competitive again.
Right.
So and it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. I'm glad to have that as an option, as one of the options.
Well, hopefully we don't get to 1980, mid-80s where they were 18%, 20%.
Oh man, yeah, I know. Yeah, early 80s. That was nuts.
Oh yeah, you can get a CD for 18%. They'll say, hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So hey, Bob, I hear we got about a minute left. You're listening to Bob Klingman and Bill Bullington right here on 1420. We're here. Well, I'm here every Saturday morning. Bob, thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, the phone number is 440-461-5067.
And Bob is the owner of Dispatch Tax Services. He's an enrolled agent, and he's close by, and you can tell that he's easy to talk to. So thanks again, Bob. I think these are probably some of my best shows when you're on.
I like talking about these things. I do, and then there's so many tentacles in them, but that's what I mean. It's very good.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. So anyway, with that, I guess we'll call the show. I don't know. We should start hearing the music. That's basically how we know they're kicking us off. They start playing the music. There you go. Have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Take care.
You just caught another edition of the Bullington Capital Report, broadcasting every Saturday at 11 a.m. on AM 1420, The Answer. If you have a question and you'd like to speak to Bill personally, you can call him at 330-664-0700. That's 330-664-0700. Or online at bullingtoncapital.com. That's bullingtoncapital.com.
The preceding program has been paid for by Bullington Capital Management, LLC.